We are a very important grouping in the world. Our countries account for 6.6 billion people in the world. That's almost 80% of the people of the world. Therefore, we can do a lot. As I told you the other day, some of us have been involved in the resistance movement for more than 60 years. And we have got some conclusions. As I said the other day, we need to address 3 areas. As the theme of our other meeting, the two meetings, the NAM, the theme was deepening cooperation to achieve global affluence of all people, instead of affluence of only some. Now, the theme of this summit was leaving nobody behind, which is really the same point, that everybody, all people of the world should be in a good situation, should be prosperous. But how do you become prosperous? Sustainably. According to our experience, the only way you can guarantee prosperity sustainably is to enable all families, all persons who are old enough to participate in wealth creation by producing goods or services, either as an entrepreneur or as an employee of that enterprise. The population or adults participating in the production of goods and services. And here we can cooperate with the countries of the South. We can cooperate in production of goods and services. Therefore, in the 1 year which you have entrusted me to head the organization, I will push those 3 points: production of goods and services, how to encourage that interlinkage, dealing with the issue of markets, and then the issue of the infrastructure. But this assumes that we have peace among ourselves, which is another issue. Because if we don't have peace, then we shall not achieve this. So I will have to be in touch with some of the brothers and sisters who have got tensions or even conflict, to see how win-win solutions can be found. So I'm very happy on behalf of Uganda to have welcomed you here, and I thank you so much for being patient and staying for up to the end. And it is now my pleasure to declare the Group of 77 Summit and the South Summit closed. Thank you very much.
President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni ending or closing officially the G77 plus China summit earlier today. Now, Of course, the G77 plus China summit has officially closed. However, several issues came up during the summit. But what are some of the topical issues that took center stage that President Museveni will have to address, working, of course, with international and regional bodies that are affiliated to the G77 plus China South-to-South cooperation? Our reporter Timothy Nyangweso, in an exclusive interview with the UN Regional Director for Africa on environment and climate change, Rose Mwebazi, unpack some of the major issues that were discussed.
Doctor, listening to the different nations and their representatives, both heads of state and government there, what pains, what challenges do you hear, and can they be addressed?
I think coming from the UN Environment Program, my ear has quickly picked up that climate change is a pain point for many countries across the world, for the G77, whether it is countries in the Middle East that are desert countries but are increasingly suffering even greater desertification, or African countries that are suffering immense impacts on climate change, including ecosystems loss and damage, or small island developing states. All the ministers and prime ministers and ministers who are here, or Southeast Asia, if you listen to what Pakistan said, or Indonesia. So climate change remains a point of pain. And if you've listened, you will notice speaker after speaker talked about the pride this group has in getting the Loss and Damage Fund established at COP28 in the United Arab Emirates. That was a very big win. But they're also talking about the economics, you referred to it, how there is need to review the global multilateral financial system, mostly because these countries, with having to pay back debt at such a high cost, it means they're not left with enough money to pay for loss and damage resulting from climate change, for ecosystems restoration. And this being a South-South summit, with the theme being leaving no one behind, one of the things that is sitting on the minds of every leader, as you've heard, is how to lift their people out of poverty. This group of 135 countries holds 80% of the global population. It's a lot of people to lift out of poverty. So for us coming from the United Nations, even for UNEP talking about the environment, we say it's about people and nature. We want a good environment because then communities can grow food, they can rear animals, and they can do business and industry in an ecosystem that is supportive. So these things are very important, and that really resonated with me.
And I'm glad you're talking about climate, you're talking about financing, the architecture there being changed. Let's get to something that is happening. There's a very big divide between the global north and the global south. How do you hope that gap can be covered, especially in terms of economics?
That is why the multilateral process is very important. This is where we have these conversations. It's 200 countries worldwide. Getting consensus, contrary to what people think, takes more than 2 days of the group of 77 plus China meeting. It takes several months of negotiations because the G20 are largely the rich countries in the world, in the global north, and they generally capitalize all the multilateral funding institutions. And the G77 plus China, while they are the biggest in numbers, are the largest beneficiaries. But as they've also all repeatedly said, they are the least responsible for global warming. So how do you get 20 of the richest countries to negotiate with the rest of the countries? It's not an easy process. But as I said, that is why the global multilateral process is important, and that's why we must have it.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Let's get into some of the things that you have mentioned. Some of the things that we had being mentioned is the reforms of the financial architecture there, the IMF, the World Bank, the interest rate there, concerns especially in repayment. But we also have a huge appetite for loans as a continent. Is that possible? Because it's like a catch-22. How do we find the balance between the loans and the debts?
I think there is a reconciliatory possibility there. Of course, even in the private sector, business thrives on credit. So it is not the concept of debt or credit that is necessarily bad. It is the manner in which this credit is granted, the terms, principally the interest rate, and the payment periods. So that is what needs to be negotiated. It's not just the G77 plus China that use credit. Even the G20 countries use credit to grow their industry and economy. It's just under different terms. And that is what needs to be negotiated. So we'll take any country. I'm looking at countries here. If you look at a country like Ethiopia, I'm looking at their placard. It's one of the largest countries.
Our reporter Timothy Nyangweso, they are talking with Miss Rose Mwebaze, who is the UN Regional Director for Africa on Environment and Climate Change, discussing quite a number of issues there, but specifically climate change. Of course, that was after the closure of the G77 plus China summit. But also during this program, I will be joined by the Minister for ICT and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Baryomusi, and be looking at topical issues that have been happening, topical issues pertaining to the events that have been happening here in the country, including the NAM summit, G77 plus China summit, and of course other emerging issues. Please do keep it here with us at UBC TV. Moving on, President Yoweri Museveni has today met his Botswana counterpart, His Excellency Dr. Mogwetsi Eric Kaebetswe Masisi. During a silent meeting at the G77 plus China summit at Speak Resort Munyonyo, President Masisi pledged unwavering support to Uganda's farmers in combating the foot and mouth disease by developing a vaccine. Proposing a bilateral program for comprehensive collaboration, President Masisi envisioned a government-to-government partnership to address the foot and mouth challenge. He further assured President Museveni that their needs and potential with Uganda's remarkable 16 million cows align perfectly with Botswana's expertise in drug therapeutics. President Masisi also expressed Botswana's keen interest in exploring the value chain and expanding collaboration in the dairy industry. He noted that potential export of milk from Uganda to Botswana is on the agenda, aiming to address Botswana's feed shortage and enhance Uganda's dairy sector. President Museveni also encouraged Botswana to establish a feed manufacturing company in Uganda, leveraging locally produced resources like soybeans, sunflower cake, molasses, and cotton seed. Meanwhile, President Yoweri Museveni has also met and held discussions with His Excellency Kim Son-gyong, the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs and Special Envoy from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. His Excellency Kim represented His Excellency Kim Jong-un at the just concluded G77 plus China summit. During a sideline meeting at the summit at Speak Resort Munyonyo, President Museveni reflected on the long-standing connection between Uganda and North Korea, tracing back to 1969, when he attended a student journalist conference addressed by the esteemed Kim Il-sung. President Museveni acknowledged North Korea's pivotal role in the establishment of Uganda's tank force and highlighted the support received, including a rocket system that proved instrumental in recent operations in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. President Museveni extended his appreciation for Mr. Kim's visit to Uganda, thanking His Excellency Kim Jong-un for sending the special envoy. Mr. Kim conveyed warm greetings from President Kim Jong-un, recognizing President Museveni's leadership on the international stage as he assumed the chairmanship of the NAM and the G77 plus China. To Parliament now, where Parliament has hailed the late Cecilia Ogwal, the former woman member of Parliament for Dokolo District, for her contribution to national development. The MPs have been challenged by the legacy of the late Cecilia, whose patriotism was exemplary. The late Cecilia died on Thursday, the 18th of January 2024, at the age of 77. Parliament has converged a special sitting to pay tribute to her dedicated service. Take a watch.
Parliament has held a special sitting to pay tribute to the late Cecilia Ogwal, the former woman representative for Dokolo District. The House, full to capacity, was joined by several distinguished leaders, including the Chief Justice Owiny Dolo, former cabinet ministers and former members of Parliament.
As in paying tribute to the late Cecilia Ogwal Barbara.
The Speaker of Parliament, Anita Among, in her communication reminded the House of the everlasting contributions by the late Cecilia Ogwal, which inspired many young politicians, including her, to the political arena.
This is a testimony of her remarkable contribution.
The remains of the late Cecilia Ogwal were then rolled to the Parliament chambers by pallbearers and the casket wrapped with the national flag to symbolize the patriotic spirit of the fallen legislator. At this point, the Prime Minister, Robina Nabbanja, was on time to present the motion of the resolution of Parliament to pay tribute to the late Cecilia Ogwal, who served both Parliament and the country in the various capacities. Nabbanja fronts, among others, the vibrancy, articulation and logic embedded in the rich history of the late Cecilia Ogwal.
Honorable Cecilia Ogwal has been a competent leader who, together with others, strengthened constitutionalism, democracy, parliamentary practice, political tolerance, rule of law, and encouraged cohesion among different shades of opinions.
And the motion was unanimously seconded by the whole House, including the Vice President, Major Jessica Alupo, and the Leader of Opposition, Joel Senyonyi, as the members zeroed the eulogies to praising the tolerance and the fairness of the late Cecilia Ogwal.
I pray that the Almighty God grants the entire family the courage and the strength to go through this trying moment. And I would like to thank His Excellency, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda, for according her an official burial.
She was a stateswoman of outstanding and unparalleled dignity, a mother, an inspirational leader, one of the few politicians who exemplified impeccable work ethics and acted in the interest of her nation. She embodied peace and was an ardent advocate of affirmative action, rights of women and the girl child in particular.
When the storm is there, an attack would be that elder Polango.
Thank you.
When that storm of land was there, Atat was the only one who could calm the storm in the presence of the president.
When I came to the House, Right Honorable Speaker, Honorable Cecilia Ogwal came to my aid severally when I was trying to find my feet in this place. She personally advised me, and even when I made mistakes, she never rebuked me on the floor, but took me outside in the lobby and guided me on what needed to be done right.
The former Dokolo woman representative, Cecilia Ogwal, was a member of the Forum for Democratic Change political party, a position which the late would put aside during national issues, as testified by top government officials.
And she's one of the people who could pray and speak to God about somebody in the room without fear or favor. For the last few months, I know she has seen God.
We mourn the passing of an icon, but also celebrate the fact that God gifted her to Uganda and she lives.
People who are tolerant are really people who know more. People are patient with others. Even when you are saying something which is not pleasing to her, Honorable Cecilia Ogwal will listen to the end.
She was a person who doesn't speak for the sake of speaking, but every time she spoke, the direction would change in this house when there is a contentious matter, and we have a lot to learn from her.
The late Cecilia Ogwal will be buried in Kole district on Saturday, 27th January 2024.
For the welfare of society and the just development of humanity.
Daniel Mugoya, Gloria Gwitabinji, UBC News.
The August House or members of Parliament there paying tribute to the fallen hero Cecilia Ogwal, and of course saying so much about her. She used to be called the Iron Lady, but I remember in one of the occasions that he spoke to the nation, he actually also wondered why people used to call her the Iron Lady, but I think it was because of her, straightforwardness and the fact that she was this no-nonsense person. But indeed, that was the late Cecilia Ogwal. And of course, a lot of things have been happening. Of course, that the demise of Cecilia Ogwal coming in also. But a lot of things have been going on in the country. We have been having two very, very important summits in the country, and that is the Non-Aligned Movement Summit and the G77 plus China Summit, of course, the latter ending today here in Kampala and officially closed by His Excellency President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. But also we had the IGAD conference that took place at State House in Entebbe. One of the other key things we should say have happened. And tonight we're being joined by none other than the Minister for ICT and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, to tell us more about these very key summits that took place here in the country, but also other issues that arise or are arising in our country. Honorable Dr. Chris, good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much. Good evening and good evening, viewers. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm happy to be here once again.
And of course, this is the first time that I'm seeing you here and interviewing you, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you, and Happy New Year to Ugandans as well.
Yes,
and all the viewers. Yes.
Yes, Doctor. Thank you so much for having come and having accepted to be here with us. And of course, you're a very busy person. But let's begin with the NAM Summit. Uganda hosting it, and a lot of things Ugandans have learned from this summit, and we do hope that they will practice whatever they might have picked from there. Tell us, how was it in your view, and do you think Uganda as a country hosted it to the satisfaction of everybody?
So thank you very much. NAM, up to now people meet me on the street and say, but what is NAM? People call me from the countryside and say, you'll be talking about NAM, but what is NAM? Let me, again, for the sake of that viewer.
Exactly.
In Kanungu, where he come from, in Koboko, in Karamoja, watching us, at the risk of repeating what we've been saying, just briefly say, NAM. People have been making fun of it. Is it Namukasa? Is it Namayanja? People have been making that fun. But NAM is an abbreviation for Non-Aligned Movement. Like we've been explaining, this is a grouping of countries that came together in 1961. Why? Because at that time, the world was bipolar. The world had been polarized or divided along two major blocks. There was a bloc led by the US, who espoused capitalism, and then the Soviet Union, You could call it Russia and the surrounding countries like Yugoslavia and so forth, the Soviet Union, which was also espousing communism. And therefore countries were like getting aligned. Either you are pro-West, West meaning the US and capitalism, or pro-East meaning Soviet Union and socialism. Now, a number of countries came together and said, but why? Why should we boxed into supporting one side against the other? So they came together, formed an association, and they said, for us, we are non-aligned. So that's what NAM means. We are a non-aligned movement of countries that have come together to say we are neither pro-West nor pro-East. We are pro-everybody and pro-ourselves. And today, this is a grouping of 120 countries, largely developing countries, spanning from Asia, Africa, Latin America, some few from Europe, but mainly developing countries. And even when the Cold War, as we used to call it, the US and Soviet Union, the Cold War ended and collapsed. The countries which constituted NAM believed and realized that the objectives for which they began this association were still valid. Because one of the key issues which they were championing, for instance, in the 60s, was decolonization, to fight for countries to become independent. And indeed, as you know, in the 60s and the 70s, many of our countries in Africa got independent. Those in Asia had actually become independent averagely 20 years earlier. But in Africa, with Ghana taking the lead in 1957, then the rest followed, and Uganda, as you know, 1962, we got our independence. So one of the things they fight for is sovereignty and this independence, and being able to determine our destiny as sovereign countries, relating with the rest, but also making a point that the global West, the countries which call themselves affluent, should not blackmail and harass the developing countries. So you can see that debate is still relevant. So these countries gathered here, and we are lucky that Uganda this time around was the one hosting and also taking over the leadership of this big grouping. And the conference, the summit for NAM concluded on Saturday, having begun with a discussion by the senior technical officers, and then the ministers of foreign affairs, and then the presidents and heads of government. And they concluded. Their discussions were largely along two major streams. One is the political affairs, things like the conflicts which are afflicting a number of countries in the region that constitutes the NAM countries. Here in Africa, we have plenty of conflicting communities almost everywhere. In Asia and the Middle East, there are also many conflicting communities. These days you see the Gaza, Israel, Palestine conflict, Syria, Lebanon, all those areas. Even in Asia, Myanmar, there are rebels and so forth, conflicts in Africa, and so even in Southern America. So one stream was about the political situation, issues of peace, issues of conflicts, how to resolve them. Then the other stream was the issue to deal with socio-economic issues that affect our countries. Issues of climate change, how is it changing? The disease burden and all these issues. Financing our programs, the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, how are we implementing them? How are we scoring? How are we improving the quality of life of the people? So the delegates had very fruitful discussions. So we are satisfied that the arrangements which we put in place have been fairly successful. You have been there as UBC. You must have interviewed delegates.
Oh, yes.
Today I was there at the closing ceremony. They are happy. When the president spoke, you should have been there to see when he was walking out. Everybody was clapping. And that summed up the attitude, the perception, and what the delegates have gone with. They are impressed with how we have put our act together as a country, and they held these two big meetings in one, because there was NAM, then there was the G77 plus China. The meetings have been successful. The other day I addressed the media and I was saying, let's be hospitable. We may have our own domestic challenges as Ugandans. There are things which make us quarrel. Our political parties, many things, service delivery. But I urge the Ugandans that let's put a smile and let's put our challenges aside. But as our tradition dictates in Uganda, that when you receive visitors, you don't have to show them that I was quarreling last night. You show them they are welcome. So my point was, let's show hospitality and not hostility. Of course, cutters of social media, the thing was turned and it has become viral that I directed that people should smile, which is okay. But I want to thank Ugandans because they have complied. Because I was part of the Katase ministers who frequently went to the airport to receive some of the dignitaries, and the people worked patriotically and tirelessly. The other day I went to the airport to receive the Vice President of Iran. We received him at 5 a.m. I found the security personnel up and working. The protocol officers were working, the immigration staff, everybody was working. So people have been working day and night to ensure that these conferences are successful. So we are happy, and I want to say thank you for the entire team, and also even you Ugandans out there who were not necessarily directly involved in the arrangements, but the warmth that was created by the entire country. You, the media was there. We want to say we are thankful and grateful to all those who have participated. I am quite certain, because I talked to a number of delegates, they are very happy and they have now started to leave. This afternoon, I had a bilateral engagement with the Minister of ICT of Philippines and his delegation, because earlier on we had visited Philippines to discuss issues of bilateral partnership, especially in the area of advancing ICT and particularly the business process outsourcing. You know, we are trying to see how to use ICT to create jobs for our young people especially. And you know, with technology, you can have what we call business process outsourcing, which can be onshore within the country, but also offshore, meaning that in the US, and you do that job when you are physically here in Uganda. And India and Philippines are the best countries. India comes #1, Philippines #2 in terms of harnessing that potential of ICT. So we visited, now when they came, we had unfinished business. We are signing an MOU and partnering with them to work on that issue. And I was asking the minister the impression. He was saying, where possible, he would be coming back every month to Uganda because he was impressed. So the conference has been successful, both NAM and if
yes, because I was coming to the G77. Yes.
And people have been asking, what is the difference between NAM and the G77 plus China? Why 77 plus China? Why not G78? All those questions.
Oh yes.
Again, also allow me to just summarize it. The countries which constitute NAM more or less are the same countries which constitute the G77 plus China. Now, G77 plus China is a grouping of actually 135 countries that came together within the framework of the UN to have an association for them to champion the cause of what we call the global South. We have the South, which is largely Asia, Africa, Latin America. Again, the chain, the axis of developing countries. And you know, we hold UN General Assembly, assemblies every year. And the UN brings together all the countries of the globe. So these countries realized that they have something in common. They are in the global South, but also they are developing countries. So they have particular challenges. So they organize themselves, why don't we get together? So that in the discussions of UN, we can have common positions, We can generate consensus on key issues, because the issues which affect Uganda are different from those of the US or UK or Germany. So our interests and the situations are different. So G77 refers to the original 77 countries that came up with that idea. But the countries have since increased it to 134, then plus China. Plus China, people say, why don't you say then G78 or 135? Why do you distinguish China? Well, different reasons, but the China doesn't, in a way, consider itself as one of the core members, but it came in to associate with the countries, but also to provide support, give support. But also, China was not colonized the way the other countries were colonized. It was partially colonized. So there are some subtle differences. But China also comes in mainly as a supporter of the grouping. That's why you see in organizing this conference here, China gave us close to 100 vehicles to facilitate
movement of the delegates and
delegates and other forms of support. And it supports the secretariat of G77 plus China, the secretariat. And wherever conferences are held, China usually comes in to give that support. So, and for them, they came together especially to champion economic interests. Economic interests. That's why I saw you interviewing one of the delegates, the UN official, saying they were focusing on issues of debt financing, financing development, the terms of these debts. Why do you give debts on different terms to the poor countries, and then the rich countries have different and more favorable terms? Those are the issues. Now, these countries in the global south are afflicted with this debt burden. How do they overcome it? You recall some time back, there's a time when a number of countries were like forgiven, if I can use the word, debt, and debt waived off. Those are the kind of negotiations that they engage in. But also, there's what we call South-to-South collaboration. Collaboration, which is important, that how can we learn from each other, the countries which are in the global south. That's why we call it the Third South Summit, or the other name is G77 plus China, but you can also call it the South Summit. And this is very important because when we attained independence in the 60s, the development indicators which we posted as African countries, say Uganda, were more or less the same with most of the Asian countries, whether it is life expectancy at the birth, infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, and literacy rates, all these rates which measure the quality of life. But a number of countries, for reasons maybe at some other time we can explain them, a number of countries in Asia have made bigger and faster strides.
And a good example they always give is Singapore.
There are those countries we call the Asian tigers. Singapore being one of them. Even you look at Malaysia, Thailand, even Indonesia. Okay, when you stretch, you look at Japan, South Korea, even China itself. They have moved, and there are reasons which are known. And therefore, Africa has a lot to learn from those countries. That's why you see us forging partnerships with China, with Japan, a number of countries. And the question is, how did they do it? What lessons can we draw from those countries? And maybe for us, we'll be able to move faster than the way they moved, because if you know how they made it, you know the obstacles they made, then for you, you can even now
do much better.
And that is the South-South collaboration. Even in the Southern America, they also have their own lessons learned, and we've been there to study a number of situations in that. So there is that South-to-South collaboration where countries within the global South learn from each other, do lots of exchanges, do lots of technology and skills transfer. The other day I was in China on behalf of government, and we signed an MOU with the Minister for ICT in China to see how to collaborate between Uganda and China, because agreeably, China is ahead of us in terms of technology advancement. And that's why you see we have many of these Chinese companies like Huawei, ZTE, and others in Uganda that support us in many ways to do that technology transfer, so that for us we can also move fast. And Japan, the other day, so when the satellite was launched, our own engineers were in the university in Japan to get the skills on how to make satellites and so forth. So there is a lot of cross-pollination, a lot of learning, especially learning from Asian countries and taking these skills and technology and so forth into Africa here. So through the South. But there is also another aspect of what we call triangular collaboration. Because South-South, you are looking at this belt of Asia, Africa, Latin America. But also we have to bring the global North on board and make it triangular, South, but also the North, where, for instance, the Europe, America, their advances they have also made. They have more money than what the developing countries have. So can they put some of those resources at the disposal of the developing countries so that you leave no one behind, the way the slogan of SDGs is. So these summits have been discussing all these issues, and even us as the organizers, we are happy, and also the delegates have gone very happy because the arrangements were very superb in terms of the infrastructure, the ambience. You need to be there to see the convention center which we've put in place.
State of the art.
State of the art. And I'm sure the impression our guests have gone with and the publicity we've got all over the world, we are now going to be attracting many more conferences and meetings.
Yes, exactly. Especially
and more so that we have assumed the chairmanship of both the non-aligned movement for 3 years and the chairmanship of G77 plus China for 1 year. So now President Yoweri Museveni is now chairing those groupings, but also at the technical level, our Minister of Foreign Affairs, our Ambassador to New York, they are coordinating that. And the good things are going to come.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chris. And Via, if you're just joining us, I am in the studio with the Minister for ICT and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Waryomunsi, and he has just been explaining, shedding more light on the 2 summits that have been happening here in Uganda, that is the non-aligned movement and G77 plus China summits. But Minister, also there was this IGAD meeting that took place. Shed more light on it.
Yes. IGAD is a grouping of countries in the Eastern and Horn of Africa. IGAD is Intergovernmental
Authority on Development.
Authority on Development, having Eastern Africa and then Horn of Africa. And they gathered here. I think they didn't get as much prominence as the other summits. It was more or less like subdued by the others, but we had a meeting also here, and mainly they were discussing the question of Sudan, the Sudan Khartoum.
Yes.
Because, you know, there is confusion there, if I may say. There was an uprising, the President Bashir was ousted, and since then, Sudan has never settled. So part of the reason, main reason why IGAD convened was to look for answers, to look for a solution. And I think there has been an appointment of a panel that includes our own former VP that's going to understand the whole thing, the whole conflict, and give a report. So IGAD is trying to find a solution to that challenge. And I think that's a very good gesture, that we should be able to find solutions to our own challenges.
Yes.
Because you see, like the other day, the Western world, if I may say, I don't want to say intervened would be positive, but interrupted Libya. You know what happened in Libya? They killed Muammar Gaddafi, the president. And actually, you have seen the president speaking in the public that a group of African presidents were going to Libya to have the issues resolved, and they were stopped by NATO. NATO. And you need to go to Libya today. Libya will never be the same. The level of development it had attained, it has just now gone to the ashes. To the ashes. And there's a big lesson to learn from there. If there are issues in an African country, should it be the Western world to come and impose its views and so forth, or we should look for homegrown solutions? And we have the African Union, we organized. We have the regional economic communities like the East African Community for this region. We have ECOWAS for Western Africa. We have ECAS for Central Africa. We have SADC for Southern Africa. Even the Sahara Northern, they have their own arrangement. And then of course IGAD, we have other like COMESA. There are many continental and regional bodies that look into the issues of the region, and these should be respected. So for IGAD to assemble and be able to look at issues of Sudan, that's a very positive step. And those are the issues NAM was discussing. Sovereignty of countries. You heard the president give a very strong and powerful speech when he was taking over the leadership of NAM. And he was saying, this is a global community. We must respect each other. Do not come from the West and try to force your opinion on others.
On us, yes.
On others. Yes, you are a sovereign state. You may be powerful in terms of money, but also other countries are sovereign and their views matter. That's why he was comparing with the issue of NRM. Say that's why NRM, we don't necessarily call it a political party, but it's a movement, it's an organization, because it is ideological. Because it embraces and listens to opinions of the others, and they try to generate consensus. Whereas like a political party, in the strict sense of it, has an ideological position which it pushes and may not necessarily entertain other ideological viewpoints.
Exactly.
But the way the NRM is structured is that it's multi-ideological. That's why initially it was a movement system, which was an umbrella that accommodates everybody. But even when we went into multi-party arrangement, you still see that sense of multi-ideological stance. That's why, for instance, you have the president of DP, Honorable Norbert Mao,
having a cabinet post.
Cabinet post. You will see the Honorable Betty Amongi, who is UPC. She holds the card of UPC, but the president reached out to her, and she is serving in the cabinet of NRM, meaning that the NRM can accommodate views of other people. That's the ideological standpoint the president was explaining. So we're saying the world also should move that way. Our views may not necessarily be the same views Americans have or some Europeans, but all of us, we are part of this global community. We must listen to each other. We must respect each other's views and try to generate consensus and agree on issues which unite us and for common good of humanity. That's the point. That's why NAM came together, so that we push that solidarity. And we are going to push that position in the global conversation now that for 3 years, Uganda is going to be the chairman or the chairperson of this grouping of NAM.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chris, and of course the Minister here sharing his views about these meetings that have been taking place. But finally, Minister, as we conclude, let's talk about the demise of Honorable Cecilia Ogwal. This was a person who was loved by so many, including those in the NRM. But before that, let's just go for a short break, and then when we return, we shall begin on that one.
Metu Bus Industries, Namamve, the manufacturers of buses for transporters, schools, tour operators, and special purpose vans and any customized vehicle. Metu Bus Industries offers a range of buses known for safety, comfort, and reliability. Depending on your needs, a bus can simply be a point A to point B people mover with just seats, or a special design that includes power outlet, Wi-Fi, television, refreshment center, and any other specification. Buy your buses from Metu and support industrialization of Uganda. Contact us on 0788 118586 or 0782 030303. Email us metuafricabus@gmail.com. Visit our website www.metubusafrica.com.
Amos Wekesa is a spirited and devoted advocate and champion for Uganda. His never-ending optimism, curiosity, and passion for all things Ugandan can be felt in every tweet and interaction. Amos also puts his money where his mouth is by investing in domestic tourism so that people get a feel of what Uganda has to offer. Amos, a grateful nation thanks you. You are unstoppable. MTN, the Unstoppable Network, celebrates you. Visit GreatLakesSafaris.com and together, let's support Ugandans like Amos who are driving our country's unstoppable progress.
Have you packed more with Harbour jelly and Harbour foam? Yes, we packed. It will protect your skin from skin rashes. More with pack. It is a new improved more with Harbour jelly. So soft and smooth. It is a more with Harbour jelly.
Tell me, kids, the scent. Any irritations? No more rashes and irritations. Movit Herbal Jelly and Herbal Soap is rich in natural herbs for a smooth and glowing skin.
Movit all day confidence.
Hi Fifi, how are you?
I'm fine. Baby, whenever I eat chips and chicken, I feel stomachache, joint pain and body weakness.
My dear, go to MX Nutrition Center and learn the best food for your body. And get treatment according to your blood group.
Are you sure?
Yes.
By the way, do you know your blood group, genotype, and how much you need to exercise? Come to Timex Nutrition Center for professional advice on how to manage your health and immune boosting. At Timex, we treat diseases like diabetes, arthritis, ulcers, obesity, pressure, and many more. For details, find us at our headquarters in Kampala on Nasa Road, Conrad Plaza, 2nd floor. We also have a branch in Barara, or call us on 0758 819952 or 0778 288361. Timex, be your own doctor.
In the production process of Aquafina, we expertly filter every drop, providing clear and perfect tasting water to help you keep hydrated with the added benefit of minerals. Aquafina is bottled by Pepsi Cola International in Uganda and is available at only 1,000 shillings.
Emmanuel Tumusime Mutebire Memorial Service, forever and always in our loving memory. Please join us for a memorial service of the late Professor Emmanuel Tumusime Mutebire on Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024 at All Saints Cathedral in Nakasero at 4 p.m.
break, and this is News Tonight here on UBC TV. On sign language, it is Elizabeth Nakakoni, and I am Rukidi Edward Kijanangoma. And in the studio, we are with the Minister for ICT and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Wariomusi, and we're sharing his takeouts on the two summits that took place here in Kampala, the Non-Aligned Movement Summit and the G77 plus China Summit, the latter, of course, ending earlier today. Yes, Honorable Minister, before we went for that break, we were looking at the demise. The only negative thing I would say, as far as the past 2 weeks or 1 week plus are concerned, and of course, that is the demise of Cecilia Ogwal, the Iron Lady. Yes. Your take on that, of course, being eulogized today by the entire August House. What is your take on that? Who was she to you?
Well, I don't heard you say you don't know why she was called Iron Lady. Let me start with that one.
She also used to ask herself why people called her
Yes,
Iron Lady.
why she was called Iron Lady was that when the NRM came, 1986, NRM suspended political parties in Uganda and introduced a movement political system, which was, like I said earlier on, an umbrella organization that everybody should work under the umbrella. Then she stood out to say, no, this is a political party disguised as an umbrella. And she coined, okay, she did coin it an English word, that this is a monolithic system. And she advocated for pluralism, for multi-party politics. And those days, the late 80s, early 90s, she was more or less like a lone voice in the opposition. And she stood firm. But her kind of politics, she was not abusive, the way I see opposition politicians today. She stood her ground. She was very vocal, very eloquent. She took on the establishment, and that's how she got her position of Iron Lady. Then, you know, UPC and the opposition, the political parties then boycotted the government. But later on, she realized that the boycotting was not helping. When the president of UPC, Milton Obote, in exile, said nobody should participate in the elections to elect CA delegates, because there was a process to do a constitution. So she opposed, and she was even dismissed as the Assistant Secretary General for UPC. And she was very vocal and very outspoken. That's how she got that title of Iron Lady. And actually the opposition in Uganda should give credit to her, because she fought until when we had to do a referendum and moved from a movement political system to multi-party dispensation. I think she really deserves credit. Cecilia Ogwal, Atati, as we're calling her, I think Atati is like a grandmother in Nelango language, Luo. She has been with us in Parliament. I spoke about her today on the floor, and I said we shall greatly miss her. She initially was in UPC, and then eventually went to FDC. After I think UPC had disappointed her, you know, she was the MP for Lira municipality. When Obote's family returned, I think Jimmy Akena now stood and defeated her. And she eventually, when Dokoro district was created, she now shifted to Dokoro as a woman MP. And the process, she crossed FDC. Like I said on the floor of Parliament today, that even though she was an opposition member of Parliament, but she was a patriotic public servant, someone who articulated issues in the interest of Ugandans and not these narrow interests which sometimes sway us as political leaders. If you followed her debates, she would be pushing for issues of healthcare, education, human rights, democracy, good governance, without being petty. Like these walkouts which our friends or our colleagues have been staging in the parliament. She has been saying, no, I am the member of parliament for Dokoro. Member of Parliament means I was elected to come and bring the issues in the Parliament. So how can I walk out of Parliament when my people have said me here? What I raise may not please government, but I have to raise them here for the
I think,
record.
Minister, that is one of the things that distinguished her from all the others.
Absolutely, absolutely. Even recently when they walked out, that the missing person said, okay, if they are missing person, we must raise it here so that the record captures it and we put the government to task to explain. But if you walk out, the missing person is won't come from heaven and come. They would. So she was quite distinguished. And like I said on the floor, even when she was in opposition, but she respected everybody, including us who serve in the government. There are those who even almost refuse to greet you simply because they are another political party and you are in the government. Yet it shouldn't be like that. Being in different political parties does not mean we are enemies. It means our views are different in the way we look at things, but we are all Ugandans and we all wish Uganda very well. Only that maybe we disagree on how to make Uganda better. And for her, she was motherly, she was a parent in the Parliament. Even when she rose to speak, she would guide because she was a senior citizen, a seasoned legislator who has seen it all, and she was extremely very helpful in the parliamentary affairs. She's an opposition member of Parliament who would say, President Yoweri Museveni is my brother, is my friend, and she would talk fondly of him. And even in the debates where government has done very well, she would give credit. She would say, no, government has done very well. This policy is excellent. It is good. However, government needs to improve on ABCD. And I thought that's how civilized the politics should be. That even us in the government, when the opposition brings a point, we should also say, yes, thank you very much for that piece of advice, and we take it on and integrate it in our policies, in our work, because they also have a contribution to make. But sometimes the way we have structured our politics, it is too much adversarial. Adversarial. You see members of the opposition speak, and they say the 38 years of NRM, there is nothing good which has been done. Surely. Surely. That's very deceptive.
And people say they're there to oppose because they are in the opposition. It is just to oppose. Yet, they can work with government. They can work with the government.
You see, opposition doesn't mean that even something which is good, you must paint it dirty and no. That's what the many of our opposition politicians are doing. They're just doing this. They are a disloyal opposition. And there are things which should bring us together as a country.
Exactly.
We should be patriotic. We should say this one is good for the country. Even when it's being championed by government, it is good. You can advise on how to improve it, but you cannot totally rubbish whatever government is doing. The way we do not totally rubbish what the opposition proposes, because some of the ideas they bring are useful, are good.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And actually we receive them. And because we are in the government, we integrate them in the running of government. So she is that civilized politician that gave respect, gave credit where it was due, but also criticized constructively where it was necessary. That's why she could meet the president and speak to him and say, Your Excellency, your government needs to improve ABCD. We have opposition politicians here who cannot talk to the president. Who cannot. You find
hatred, they just don't like.
You have like a road mayor, if I may use that example. He's elected to lead the city, but he cannot get a phone and call President Yoweri Museveni to say, here in the city there is this challenge, you are the head of government, we need this. Because he has a responsibility to ensure that the city becomes better. And the head of government is the president. You cannot wish it away. For him to succeed, he must depend on resources coming from the government. But here you are, the other day was also demonstrating planting banana trees in potholes. which potholes he's supposed to fix himself as the road mayor. So there is something wrong with our politics. And the Honorable Cecilia Ogwal was very exemplary in terms of showing us how we can play mature politics. We shall remember her for very many things. She championed the cause for the girl child, and the women movement. And she was in the CA together with her colleagues, the women activists, and strong women CA delegates. They pushed for articles and clauses in the Constitution that they speak to empowerment of women and the gender question. And indeed, the country has made a lot of progress. She was passionate about health care issues. I did speak in Parliament that we had an unfortunate encounter where both our mothers were sick and hospitalized in the Uganda Heart Institute. And we spent the night there in Marago nursing our mothers. And they died together on the 2 separate days, but one following the other. Her mother died first, mine died the following day. And we discussed a lot about health care in this country. And she became so passionate. Even now, whenever she would speak in the House, you could see the passion. For instance, like I told the Parliament, when we engaged, I was the Minister of Health then as Minister of State for Health. I told her we are working on a law to make Uganda Heart Institute an autonomous, a semi-autonomous institution, as well as Uganda Cancer Institute. He said now, the lessons we have picked from being in hospital here, we must support these institutes, we must have those laws. She frequently visited my office, the Minister of Health, to make sure those laws come to Parliament. And indeed, I had to burn the candle and order the staff in Ministry of Health to finalize the drafting of those bills. And I brought them personally in the Parliament, and we passed them into law. That's how passionate she was on some of these causes. She pushed for what she believed in, respectfully, and really worked for Uganda, and we shall greatly miss her. So it was a somber mood in Parliament. Parliament was full. Both the current members of Parliament, the former members of Parliament, the gallery was full, really to show how she was a uniting factor in terms of the Ugandan politics.
Exactly. Thank you so
much. And therefore, we continue to convey our condolences to the family and the rest of Ugandans.
Yes, thank you so much, Doctor. And finally, in just probably 3 minutes, of course, these meetings that took place.
But before the meetings, to say, I don't know whether you had aired the program for the funeral arrangements.
Yes.
But a number of events. Today she was in the Parliament. Today was Monday. Tomorrow the body will be in All Saints Cathedral for a funeral service starting at 9 a.m. And thereafter, her body will be transported to Okoro via Soroti, and there will be a vigil at Adoko sub-county. That's Tuesday. On Wednesday, there will be a joint council sitting at the Dokoro district headquarters from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And thereafter, the body will be taken to Lira City for a vigil. On Thursday, there will be a church service at St. Augustine Cathedral, Pao Gore. And then on Friday, there will be a church service at her home in Arito at 10 a.m. And then the public will view the body, and then the burial will be on Saturday, the 27th January, starting at 9 a.m. So I'm just summarizing the program so that the viewers can know and see how to fit in the whole program. And the burial, we shall send her off on Saturday at her home.
Okay, thank you so much.
May her soul rest in peace.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Dr. Chris, for that. Now, finally, in just probably 2 minutes, we have had these meetings. And these summits, very key. What do you think Ugandans will achieve from these summits? Briefly.
There have been immediate achievements and benefits, which I met one Ugandan there, Munyonyo said, one benefit that you improved the roads and the infrastructure, yes, the airport. So there have been those immediate ones. But also these delegates have been shopping and buying things here. The They have been staying in our hotels, eating our food, so they have spent some cash here. That's one. But the more serious benefits may be invisible and may not be immediate now. We have had side events like the Trade and Investment Summit, which was held, and a lot of deals were being negotiated and discussed. We have had several bilateral meetings with the different delegations. So we expect going forward, one, there are going to be many more tourists, the visitors in terms of tourists coming to Uganda. And you know, tourism is one of the areas that gives us income as a country. Number two, we are also expecting more investors coming in because there are lots of engagements we have worked in. Number three, we've been looking for markets for our products. And we've engaged. The other day, I was the courtesy minister for the president of Iran, but the vice president came. I sat with him in the vehicle from the airport to his hotel. And as we discussed the trade and the investment and the business issues, he said, can Uganda start exporting beef to Iran? And we
have enough cattle.
Yeah, we clinched the deal in the vehicle. So I'm now supposed to follow up with the relevant ministries, trade, agriculture, and the embassy to work it out. But he said, no, that and I have agreed, we are going to open the market for beef. And some other issues which we discussed. And this was an informal discussion just in the vehicle. So there are going to be many more opportunities. The other day I met a delegation from Morocco. They were saying they want tea, for us to export tea, and even dairy products. So there are markets there which have been explored, and what we need to do as a country is to invest more in production, in value addition, as we get these markets. Okay. And the president, the country, is now has taken the chairmanship. We are now going to be at the lead in terms of negotiating most of these issues and leading on many processes, and this opens an array of opportunities for the country. So therefore, there are many benefits. Maybe we should write in the papers and what to distill the kind of benefits and opportunities that will accrue from holding this summit. So the money we have invested should not be seen as having gone to waste. Or people to think that these days we've spent in Munyonyo have just been merrymaking, just eating and breathing fresh air in Munyonyo. No, the country is poised to benefit in very many ways, and we shall continue to explain. And more work now has to be done, especially now that we are in the chair of these two important global bodies.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chris. Time is not our best ally here, but we do thank you so much for having given us this 1 hour plus here in the studios of UBC TV to explain more about what has been happening here in the country. And viewer, that has been Dr. Chris Bariomosi, the Minister for ICT and National Guidance, and he's been telling us, shedding more light on what has been happening in the country. And now we are moving on with our news, and of course we are talking about the late Cecilia Ogwal, and of course more tributes continue to pour in to eulogize fallen Dokolo District Woman Member of Parliament Cecilia Barbara Atim Ogwal. Now both members and non-members of Parliament speak fondly of the deceased, referring to her as a marriage counselor, Pan-Africanist and girl-child welfare advocate. Former Prime Minister of Uganda, Dr. Karamoja, describes the fallen legislator as an irreplaceable person. Take a watch.
Not everyone who came to Parliament to eulogize fallen Member of Parliament Cecilia Ogwal was a legislator. Some were leaders in different capacities, while others were former and retired public servants. Dr. Karamoja, the former Prime Minister of Uganda, was one of them.
A very accommodative person who talked to everybody in the House, irrespective of their political views, and who went out of her way to reconcile people and views whenever there were differences.
As they signed in the condolence book, the gospel of Pan-Africanism, a movement that the foreign legislator cherished, did not skip their minds.
She has planted the seed, especially among the young people, and we should again emulate her to accelerate the momentum of achieving the objectives of Pan-Africanism that our sister stood for.
She has been an icon and a mentor to so many. Now, for the Pan-African movement, definitely it's a big loss because she has championed so many things, so many, and advised on so many legal frameworks that have helped guide, first of all, the women movement in terms of the legal frameworks that are required.
The Honorable Cecilia Ogwal was an example and a mirror that you can be in a hierarchy of leadership, you can be a businesswoman, but you remain a mother and a protector of a family. That's a true value of a Pan-African, that's a true value of a Ugandan woman and an African woman.
Cecilia Ogwal has over the years been able to maintain her marital life until her last breath. This has left many young legislators admiring her the more, seeking to be like her.
The biggest challenges with the female legislators is balancing politics and families. But for Honorable Cecilia, she has really balanced the family and politics, and for us women, she has been our role model.
When I won my elections, Cecilia called me and told me, right now you have 3 families. You have your family, you have FDC, and you have Parliament of Uganda, the people you are contesting for. She was really passionate about family, and she always emphasized to us, the young people, that once you reach the gate entering your home, Parliament stops there. Being a politician stops there. After the gate into the compound, you are a wife.
No matter what differences we have with our patterns, we should emulate from her. Because from her age, we need to stay in our marriages no matter what differences we have with our patterns.
As the youngest member of parliament then, Proscovia Oromite will never forget the day the old woman oriented her in parliamentary procedures.
And one advice that I remember she told me is, you should be very careful of these men in parliament. And she also always advised me to advocate for my people of Wusuk.
These are all testimonies of kindness that the deceased possessed, hence these sounding tributes.
We all know how passionate she was about women, about service delivery. We have really lost a woman, and I don't think can ever be replaced.
So as legislators, really we've lost a mentor, we've lost an elder, we've lost a lady who has been teaching us what to do in parliament.
For her, she would protect you and she would guide you and even commend you when she sees you've done very well. And she'll always keep following to see that you are doing the right thing.
God be with you till we meet again.
77-year-old Cecilia Atim Barbara Ogwal died at a hospital in India, with her body currently lying in state at Parliament. She will be laid to rest on Saturday in the Lango district of Kole in northern Uganda.
Till we meet, till we meet, till we meet.
Henry Okrut, UBC.
Jesus meet, till we meet.
Till we meet, indeed, and may the soul of Cecilia Ogwal rest in eternal bliss. Now to other news. The Prime Minister of Uganda, Right Honorable Robin Nabanja, has held bilateral talks with her Rwandan counterpart, Right Honorable Edouard Nyirene, and discussed matters of development of the two sister nations. The meeting was at the office of the Prime Minister here in Kampala.
The Prime Minister Robin and Nabanja, while meeting her Rwandan counterpart, hailed the government of Rwanda for good relations, which have been strengthened with the opening of border crossings at Rwempasha.
I thank you and your government for promoting and maintaining warm relations between our two sister countries. I'm pleased to note that our diplomatic relations have further been strengthened by the opening of yet another border between Uganda and Rwanda in a place called Rwempasha.
Rwempasha, yes.
Yes, Rwempasha. This was on July 5th last year.
Since at Rwempasha, the Prime lauded the Rwandan government for clearing Uganda Airlines to operate in Kigali and the collaboration between Uganda Revenue Authority and Rwanda Revenue Authority.
I'm also happy to note that the trade between our two sister countries is recovering following the reopening of our main Uganda-Rwanda border at Katuna in 2022. For example, the value or the volume of Uganda's export to Rwanda has increased from 11 billion 501 in 2020 when the border was closed to over 248 billion 664 million as of at the end of 2023. I want to thank you.
The Rwandan Prime Minister Dr. Edward Ngirente considers all African countries as home.
Countries, and they asked you to sign a guest book. I told them I'm telling them I'm not a guest, I'm here, I'm home, you know. Yes. Why should I sign a guest book here in Kampala?
Yes.
The Rwandan delegation included the State Minister for Regional Cooperation, General James Kabarebe, Rwanda's ambassador to Uganda, Justin Nakami, UBC News.
Now, the First Lady, Janet Kataha Museveni, has expressed a need for the public to coexist and secure existence alongside animals. Mrs. Museveni was speaking during a luncheon she hosted for the spouses of heads of state and delegations of the G77 plus China summit at Entebbe State House.
The First Lady, Janet Museveni, has hosted spouses to the heads of state and delegations for the G77 plus China summit to a luncheon at State House Entebbe after they returned from a tour to the Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center. She said Uganda has a great diversity of landscapes, plant life, wildlife, bird life, culture and people.
Also boasts of more than 1,000 out of the 2,250 bird species in Africa. The challenge for us now is to find ways of coexisting harmoniously with all these precious species. And we're trying to find ways to secure their existence alongside our own.
The guests that include the spouses of Eswatini, Philippine and the spouse of the Prime Minister of Guantanamo began their tour at Uwek from the section of waste management, where the center encourages sustainability and green energy, emphasizing that plastic pollution is a global problem. They were taken to the exhibition of the lion, giraffe, rhino, elephant and crocodiles.
Hello? These animals are gentle, so feel free. Oh.
The spouses participated in feeding the young elephant, which was rescued from National Park, abandoned as a baby, and now being rehabilitated by the center.
Good.
At the chimpanzee sanctuary, the spouses witnessed how the center feeds chimpanzees.
You can throw across. And Dugu is a close friend to Otim, and he has picked something.
This tour was led by the third Deputy Prime Minister Rukia Nakadama and Minister for Tourism Tom Butime, who appreciated the President for directing that Entebbe Botanical Gardens be transferred from the Ministry of Agriculture to that of Tourism.
He's finding support
to turn around these gardens, to continue offering plant management and research, as well as tourism in an improved manner. This is going to make a complete tourism experience of flora and fauna for the tourists who will traverse these two attractions here, thereby generating revenue for the country.
This visit by the spouses to the Wildlife Center is to increase cooperation and partnerships in the tourism sector.
Every day we rescue more and more animals. They need to feed, they need to be looked after, they need to be treated. So we need more operational money, especially when it comes to animal food, because as you have seen, our animals are feeding in a classified way. Each animal has got a nutrition diet that must suit the conditions of that animal at a particular time. So we need more food, we need more people to look after these animals, and so we are asking for an increment in the budget for us to be able to operate smoothly.
The spouses also planted trees of different species. I'm Nafka Farida and Juman Samba in Entebbe.
Now, police have confirmed successful policing of high-profile summits hosted by the country without registering any major incidents. Police spokesperson Fred Nanga says activists and other politicians that tried to stage protests were successfully contained. We have more in this story.
Amidst deliberations of the different heads of state and other country representatives during the non-aligned movement and G77 plus China summits, politicians and activists attempted to stage demonstrations alleging poor governance by the state. Security termed this as malaligning the country's image in the presence of visitors, which attracted preventative measures.
Banana suckers in Jinja, they saw the police, they ran away. The same, it was more of a cowardly protest in all these places. There is nobody who was bold enough to wait for police to come and arrest them.
Police plan to leverage on the CCTV footage to arrest those that took part in these protests to face the law.
But of course we have files that were opened at CID, first of all for inconsiderate use of the roads. You don't bring rubbish, you don't bring stones, however much the road is in a poor condition, and then you start inconsiderately dumping these stones, banana suckers and all that. So, however, this information came to the attention of the leadership of police at Kampala Metropolitan. The 4 officers were arrested. A quick search was done at their homes, which led to the recovery of some dollars, which were exhibited.
In other investigations, police have registered increased complaints from female workers in Arab countries over fraud by relatives. These accuse relatives of mismanaging their finances.
We continue to urge some of the intending female workers going for labor in these countries to at least ensure that they open accounts which are under their control.
This matter involves 2 countries, and police advise victims to open accounts with sole control. Patricia Nandago for UBC.
Now, Minister for Presidency, Millie Babidie Babalanda, has announced preparations for the 38th NRA NRM Liberation Day celebrations at Uganda Media Center, Kampala. President Museveni is expected to officiate the 38th NRA Day anniversary celebrations scheduled to take place in Jinja City at St. John's Senior Secondary School, Wakitaka Playgrounds in Jinja's Northern Division on Friday, January the 26th, 2024. Brent Mwinebianhanga has the rest of the story.
Uganda will commemorate 38 years since NRA-NRM took power from the dictatorship that destroyed Uganda's economy and destabilized peace. This Friday, January 26, all roads lead to Jinja City at St. John's SS Wachitaka to remember the day and how much the NRM government has consolidated under the leadership of President Yoweri Museveni. Minister for Presidency Millie Babalanda told UBC that all is set.
The program of the day has been made with due regard to the national order of precedence. VIPs and other invited guests are expected to arrive within their designated time and be seated at least 30 minutes before Her Excellency the Vice President. Guests arriving after the Principal has taken his seat will not be allowed into the VIP tent because we do still have them here within the country.
53 personalities will be awarded medals. The venue for the celebrations will be at St. John's Wachitaka Primary School in Jinja City. The Minister for Presidency outlined some of the achievements of the NRM government.
One of the medalists will be the former Chabazing of Busoga, His Royal Highness Henry Wakomloch Obe, who contributed greatly and largely in the external wing of the struggle. The program for the traffic will be communicated to you by the traffic police.
Meanwhile, there will be district celebrations throughout the country. The 2024 theme for the 38th NRA Liberation Day is Building a Country We All Cherish. Brian Tumwinebiaruhanga, UBC News.
Brian Tumwinebiaruhanga with that story. Now, first Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for East Africa Community Affairs, also woman member of Parliament for Kamuli District, Rebecca Tuala Kadaga, has highlighted a number of milestones that the country has achieved as it prepares to commemorate the 38th NRA Liberation Day. Kadaga points out Uganda's consistency with pushing for a working East African community and other policies that are critical for it to be fully operational. The day will be celebrated in Jinja on the 26th of January 2024.
Uganda, as part of the East African community, has been very consistent in planning for and trying to actualize the 4 pillars of the East African community integration. We have already achieved the customs union. We are already we have the common market. We also ought by now this year to have set in place the monetary union, and then finally the political confederation. The monetary union is not moving as fast as it should. However, we have mooted the idea that instead of insisting on the conditionalities for convergence in order to get a common currency, we would like to propose that the East African community issues an East African currency to operate alongside the national currencies until such a time as we can have one single currency, as done in the European Union. A number of the countries run alongside the euro. So that's the new idea that we are mooting, and I hope that if the proposal is agreed upon, as I said, Uganda is a key member of the East African community. We are doing quite a lot to sensitize about the benefits of the community. Now, yes, I was in Parliament as a leader for quite a bit of time. There are many things that I did over those 20 years. I think among the most outstanding was to engender the legislation. For instance, I ensured that the committees share leadership and that the women are able to chair committees. I established a daycare center there for the children of the staff and the members. I gave opportunities to the women members of staff to travel. Before I became a deputy speaker, they were not allowed to travel to attend seminars or workshops or
Now, the Chief of Defence Forces, General Wilson Mbadi, has emphasized that the army shall continue with its mandate of protecting the country against any aggression as they plan to hold their 48th Tarehe Sita anniversary slated for the 6th of February 2024 in Bugweri district. He says that the UPDF will be involved in sanitation activities, civil engineering, medical outreach programs, eye clinics, ideological orientation and mindset change to reaffirm the UPDF's character as a people's army. Ivan Kahwa reports.
The UPDF will hold its 43rd anniversary in Busesa-Bugweri district headquarters, Eastern Uganda, to commemorate the founding of the UPDF force from Fronasa, NRA, headed by General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda.
We decided on Busoga so that we can thank the people of Busoga because they are the backbone of our security. And we also want to express solidarity with the people and symbolically give back to the population.
The celebrations will be held in Bugweri as part of the rotational regionalized arrangement basis, a departure from the previous events which were always held in barracks.
District compared to the other districts that we have seen.
The Chief of Defence Forces, General Wilson Mbadi, revealed that UPDF shall have a Defence Forces Week throughout the country, sacrificing what little they have to remind the members of the public that they are with them through sanitation activities, civil engineering, medical outreach programs, eye clinics, ideological orientation and mindset change.
Constitutionalism and the rule of law. We are perhaps the only group of government employees who have ever worked without a salary for years at one time while putting our lives in line of death for the safety of our citizens and the country.
He committed the force's will to perfect its capabilities to respond to emergencies and providing security to avert reactionary political appeals.
And remain to be an institution that you can trust.
Other than the UPDF protecting people and defending the country against any form of invasion, it has involved itself in activities geared at enhancing socio-economic transformation. The UPDF has also been key in ensuring that the environment is protected, where they have planted millions of trees to ensure the impact of environmental degradation is mitigated.
And we continue this year to sustain the offensive against environmental insecurity. We thus salute all those who always enthusiastically extend support towards the successful handling of Tarehe Sita and Defence Forces Week, and also towards the overall mandate of the UPDF.
The Chief of Defence Forces, General Wilson Mbadi, they are ending that story. And of course, I would like to make a clarification or correction here. The UPDF will be celebrating its 46th Tarehe Sita celebrations and not the 48th, as we had erroneously informed you earlier on. Now, the President of the 78th UN General Assembly, Denis Francis, has praised Kampala Capital City Authority, KCCA, for its dedication to empowering young girls through the Girls Empowering Girls program. During a visit to Nakivubo Primary School in Kampala, organized by UNICEF Uganda, Francis commended the Ugandan government and KCCA for their exceptional commitment to the initiative.
The best service you can give is to others, not to yourself, to your community, to strengthen and empower your communities.
The Girls Empowering Girls program ensures a safe transition into adulthood for girls, providing education and training opportunities and empowering them to achieve their goals. While visiting Nakivubo Primary School in Kampala, the President of the 78th UN General Assembly, Denis Francis, lauded the government of Uganda and KCCA for their commitment to the program.
Have an equal place and an equal role to play in social and economic development. that they must stand alongside the men. I am so impressed and pleased to witness firsthand
National Development Plan 3. I want to take this opportunity to thank KCCA and the Belgian government, which has really supported this program, and we are working together. I believe that we shall get there. I also wish to thank the UN system and other partners who have supported Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development to build a social protection system.
Dorothy Chisaka, the KCCA Executive Director, shared the success story of the Girls Empowering Girls program, which has already benefited 3,000 girls.
In total, the program has benefited 3,000 of some of the most vulnerable girls spread across the 5 divisions of Kampala. Their lives have been transformed, and we thank our partners who have been involved in this: UNICEF, TMF, and UYDEL.
Funded by the Belgian government through UNICEF and implemented by KCCA, Girls Empowering Girls program stands as a testament to the collective efforts in creating a brighter future for girls.
To Karamoja sub-region now, where people from Kwen and Buko districts have denied Pokot pastoralists access to graze in their districts, accusing them of having committed atrocities like killings, animal theft, land grabbing and grazing in people's gardens. The 3rd Division Commander, Major General Don Williams Nabasa, convened a security meeting at Lokales Sub-County Amudat district, where Pokot leaders pleaded with the Sabinye to be allowed to graze, but all in vain.
The Pokot have been experiencing hard time, including loss of livestock due to drought. It follows the killing of UPDF soldiers and atrocities committed to the host communities in Buko and Kwen district starting September last year. Security officials in Karamoja sub-region stopped the Pokot from grazing outside Amudat district. The 3rd Division Commander, Major Don Williams Navasa, convened a meeting at Lokales Sub-County Amudat district, where Pokot leaders from Amudat and West Pokot of Kenya, leaders from Buko and Kwen districts and security officers from UPDF and police attended.
Our cows in Amudat. So, I want my brother Mika to agree that we have really made our people to suffer. You remember the cows of Mama Dorothy, where we recovered it from? And the thieves are known. You have them in Amudat. Those people who sold the cows to, and we recovered it in Nairobi, they are there with you. We have never arrested them up to today. You know the people who killed the brother of the camp. You know them. The father is even here in the meetings.
Pokot leaders apologized to Sabine for the atrocities.
Whatever ile makosa ndugu zangu wamefanya, samea tu. Mimi naomba nyinyi.
Because will be wiped. All of them are going to die. And the reason I am
declaring today that allowing the Pokots that you are allowed to go and graze, it will mean that we have automatically lost our seats.
To the Pokot, in terms of animals, we have lost 100 sheep, we have lost 100 goats, we have lost 1,000 cows. You first pay before we even talk. Sit down. And of course involving Sabine and the Pokots. They go meet, whether they meet for a week, they come with resolutions. Then we are called back here.
Meanwhile, Mount Moroto Region Police Commander Francis Chamusto urged the two communities to unite. The next meeting will be held in Kwen district.
To the courts of law now, and Nakawa Chief Magistrates Court has issued a warrant of arrest against Molly Katanga, a wife to the late Henry Katanga, to answer charges of allegedly murdering her husband. The same court has also committed to High Court 4 suspects, including 2 daughters of the late Katanga, on offences of murder.
4 suspects in the murder case of businessman Henry Katanga, including Martha Nkwanzi Katanga, Patricia Kakwanza daughters, Amanyire Georgia and Otai Charis, have appeared before Nakawa Chief Magistrates Court. Prosecution prayed to court to commit the accused to High Court for trial. Since inquiries into the case are complete, court first read the summary of evidence and exhibits that included a pistol alleged to have been used to murder Henry Katanga, laboratory test reports, ballistic expert reports, telephone reports, residues from the pistol, and how the four participated in committing the offense.
1. Postmortem report, deceased, PF-24 in respect of the accused persons, PF-19 exhibit slip, items indicated from the exhibit slip.
Magistrate Elias Kakoza committed the four to High Court for trial. Prosecution also prayed to court to issue a warrant of arrest against More Katanga, wife to the deceased, although the prayer was objected by the defense legal team.
That if the prison doctors, who are equal professionals in the medical field, assess that they cannot handle a specific situation, they even make referrals to Mulago National.
The prayer for a warrant and extend summons until the accused A1 is healed and discharged.
Just to go through the history of the matter, on the very first appearance, it was the DPP themselves who informed court that the patient was hospitalized. We pray that you extend the summons, but no matter the date of the summons, if our client is discharged before the date of the summons, we shall present her in court as soon as she is discharged.
Magistrate Elias Kakoza, however, issued a warrant of arrest.
We don't have an affidavit sworn by a medical officer personnel. In paragraph 3, it was said that on 12th of December 2023, a successful A1 successful basis of her condition.
More Katanga, wife to the deceased, is reportedly hospitalized at IHK for injuries she allegedly sustained during the shooting of her husband, Henry Katanga. Court has set 12th February 2023 for More Katanga to appear in court. Deborah Namamonde, UBC News.
Business news now, and there is hope for Ugandan farmers after a Thailand farm machinery manufacturer ventured into Uganda's market to improve the livelihood of resource-constrained farmers. A Flying Star, with an assembling plant at the Namamve Industrial Park, has transformed lives across Africa and in Thailand through its farm utility vehicles. Dennis Igoa reports.
Mechanization of agriculture is key if majority of Uganda's farmers want to increase efficiency, improve income and productivity. Farmers are urged to upgrade from rudimentary farming to escape from the vicious cycle of poverty.
It is what every farmer needs to succeed in their lives. So what the FUV does, it can do everything from your gardens, to pumping water, to de-water, to doing transport. It can even take your pregnant wife to the hospital. So you could also even produce electricity at your home in the evening time.
You know, there's this very important question is how much do they cost?
So let me tell you like this. To give you a good perspective on how to acquire a machine, it's very easy because right now this is a Ugandan-made machine. We have our factory in Namavi Industrial Park, so it's very accessible. We have all our spare parts. We have all our service teams, so you don't have to worry about your machines being broke down or not being able to acquire spare parts. So, and it's very affordable. Yes, it might seem a little bit higher than maybe our competitors that are from other countries, but this will definitely change your lives.
Tried and tested in Thailand and several African countries, the farm utility vehicles are
An example, there's actually a Ugandan farmer who had bought one machine. Within 4 months, he made money to buy a second machine for his brother. And then within 3 months, another machine was bought for their younger brother. So the three of them are just working, making money in Uganda.
Mechanization reduces the cost of work, decreases time and manpower to complete farm operations, and hence increases productivity and profits. Dennis Goa for UBC News.
And finally, let's have an item on sports, and we're looking at the Africa Cup of Nations in Ivory Coast, and it is now in the final round of the group matches. Knockout stages start this weekend, as we hear in this story.
Decent one, just wide.
The knockout stages of the 2024 Africa Cup of Nations Games are set for the 27th of January 2024. Before the third and final round of matches played on Monday, 22nd January, Cape Verde had already qualified for the round of 16. 15 others are set to join them, and the least performing 8 countries from the 6 groups will be eliminated. Many of the African giants have faced challenges in this tournament. This week, 2012 champions Zambia will take on the 2022 World Cup semi-finalists Morocco, as both teams aim for the knockout rounds.
Batantaka! Finally!
7-time record champions Egypt take on Cape Verde, hoping to qualify without their Liverpool talisman, Mohamed Salah. Defending champions Senegal aim to continue their winning journey against Guinea on Tuesday night.
The right-hand side. Jai's in the middle. Mane is two. Mane finds the back of the net and seals the win. And Senegal finally clinched this battle.
The finals of the Africa Cup of Nations will be played on the 11th of February 2024. Mashamira Victor, UBC News.
And that's all we had time for. Thank you so much for having kept us company. My name is Rukidi Edward Kijanangoma, wishing you a blessed night.
Emmanuel Tumusime Mutebire Memorial Service, forever and always in our loving memory. Please join us for a memorial service of the late Professor Emmanuel Tumusime Mutebire on Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024 at All Saints Cathedral in Nakasero at 4 p.m.
Get value for your money by choosing the right paint. With Global Paints, you don't just paint, but paint for generations to come. Make Global Paints a paint of choice and make your building a paradise. We have weather coat emulsion, undercoat emulsion, silk vinyl emulsion, flat emulsion, super gloss, and high gloss. Global Paint, a reliable product.
Have you packed more with Harbour jelly and Harbour foam? Yes, we packed packs. It will protect your skin from skin rashes. More with pack. It is a new improved more with Harbour jelly. So soft and smooth. It is a more with Harbour jelly.
Tell me, kids, the sense. Any irritations? No more rashes and irritations. Movit Herbal Jelly and Herbal Soap is rich in natural herbs for a smooth and glowing skin.
Movit All Day Confidence.
The only water that can quench my thirst. Aquafina, we are good. Aquafina, hydration that is good. With essential and good. Can never get water bottle. Aquafina is my drinking water, my love.
In the production process of Aquafina, we expertly filter every drop, providing clear and perfect tasting water to help you keep hydrated with the added benefit of minerals. Aquafina is bottled by Pepsi Cola International in Uganda and is available at only 1,000 shillings.
The energy of this land was born in the hearts of these men, of these women. It comes to life in the power of these colors and the memory of these scents. The energy of this land comes from here. It comes from Africa, and it vibrates in each of us.
Powered by Africa.
Oryx Gas, powered by Africa.